Hey, what's going on, Minnesota Viking fans? Welcome to the Purple People Podcast. My name is Kyle Smith. I am joined by Adam Carlson this week. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm here. Apparently, we are only going to be half our usual showcase here because we are missing two of our important pieces. Mr. Kyle West, I believe, has some work to do, and Mr. Dorian Foley was unable to join us this week. So you'll just be me and Kyle. So hopefully that's okay with you guys.
I think it'll be good. You know what I've noticed, too, on some of my favorite shows? Before we can jump into that, this is episode number 343, Jonesing for a lineman. I'm really excited to talk about more offensive line stuff, and who better in our chat than with Adam Carlson, because he's our offensive line guru of the show.
I do love talking about those offensive linemen. So much people are overlooked. If you remember back a couple years ago, we used to do shows talking about how people were ripping on the Vikings for drafting offensive linemen early, saying you could find a good offensive lineman or a decent enough one in free agency or in the late rounds of the draft. And now look at us. We're all saying the Vikings have to take an offensive lineman early. And, you know, there's all this pressure on grabbing the top free agents. It's so strange how the situations can change and needs adjust based on the team situation and what other people are saying. It's just so odd. I find that so, I don't know the right word for it, but it both blows my mind and confuses me, and it finally impresses me that maybe people will understand the importance of having a strong offensive line. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say we're going to pump you up on this one because we said that you're the offensive line guru. Adam's the guy who anchors the show. So if he's out, I mean, you should see me and Kyle try to run this by ourselves. There's a lot of craziness going on in chaos. So Adam's going to bring a cool perspective on the offensive line stuff.
We've already got some folks showing up in the chat. Devin Gonzalez and David Bade both say Skol. We've got some people that are watching and not chatting, and that's okay too. Just hang out, enjoy. But if you have any questions, comments, be sure to say them in the chat. We will address as many as we can while we're having fun talking about Vikings football.
Absolutely. Appreciate everybody showing up. So we're going to freeform it this week and just kind of go with the flow. What do you want to start with, man?
Freeform, that's a good word. Good word. Let's see. We can just dive right into the main topic, and then we can touch on the smaller stuff later, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
So we named this week's episode Jonesing for a Lineman because the Vikings did bring back center/guard Brett Jones. He was the player that they signed from the Giants before the season really got started last year when they found out the news about Nick Easton. Jones is a capable lineman. If they end up not having a player that can replace him, he should be able to be plugged in pretty well at left guard, but I still see them wanting to draft one of the better interior linemen, specifically a pass-blocking offensive lineman guard in the draft, because now they've got that backup center. Now we've got people speculating that maybe they're going to move Jones to center, have Alfline come out and do the left guard. So this does open up some things, gives the Vikings a little more versatility, opens up things they can do in the draft. All in all, for the 1-year deal they gave him, and really they aren't paying him much at all. So the fact that this all worked out in the Vikings' favor, I think really is a great way to get things rolling heading into the draft and even the later stages of free agency.
Yeah, if we want to bring this around full circle, we can just bring it back 2 seasons ago and how important depth is, and it happened at the quarterback position. Sam Bradford played the game of his career to week 1, and then we didn't see him again for the rest. Well, I take that back. We saw him in week 5 against the Bears, and it was awful to watch. But how important is depth? And once again, I'm not going to beat this over the head too much. I'll bring this back around later, but I saw people online, which I should stop reading the comment section. I think that'll be my resolution, is to stop reading the comment section. People are bitching about this. People beat it over the head all day long. We got to sign offensive linemen. Well, you just kept one. And the great part about Brett Jones is he's already familiar with the team because he was already here. And now he'll have more time. We have better coaches added this year in Gary Kubiak. We have some longevity that will stay there. We got a offensive line coach that'll be there, knock on wood, for certain this year. I think this is a good signing, and I don't see – and monetarily, like you said, it's great. I don't see the downside in keeping this guy around, so I'm excited to have him.
After the Vikings lost out on the bidding war for Nick Easton, They had to do something. They had to bring in somebody. And yeah, Brett Jones isn't going to shoot off the charts and have fans saying our problems are solved, our offensive line's good. Now we just need some rookies to develop and some depth behind. No, you're not going to hear that. You're going to hear Jones is going to compete. He's not there to be handed a starting job. He is there to compete. And that is going to be his role, is fighting off a youngster for that spot. Whether it's going to be a guy drafted in the first round, fourth round, or whatever, it's going to be him fighting for a spot. And anytime you get competition like that, that should be welcome on your team.
It should be, yeah. Elfline's not going anywhere, and you absolutely need that depth there. I don't have to repeat myself from the last point. Is just, Elfline's not going to play every snap. You have to have somebody dependable in there, and he's a seasoned vet, and especially for the money, because there's so much cash on this team. I think this is a great move for the team.
Yeah, remember when the Vikings used to have Elfline, and then they had Berger and Easton, either one which could be plugged in at center, so they could move those guys around at will if anything happened. And I think they want to have more of that kind of versatility.
Man, I want to throw this point in here now, but we're not gonna, I'll wait till later. I'm looking at Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft, and he did this for us. Said he did specifically for the Vikings, but he's doing in the first 3 rounds, and this would please all the internet warriors out there. So I guess I'll throw it in real quick. Daniel Jeremiah is talking with Wabi in a short 2-minute video on Vikings.com, and he did a 3-round mock draft, and he went with Cody Ford from Oklahoma in round 1. Now, I've seen a lot of mock drafts from a lot of the NFL experts out there. I did not see Cody Ford on anyone's list up there. I think it was already gone at that point. I don't know how Adam feels about it. We can break it down pick by pick really fast.
Sure.
Yeah, Cody Ford from Oklahoma. I don't know that he's going to be there.
That's one of those best case situations, is if he's still available.
Okay. I don't know much about the guy, but I hate to say it because it sounds really cliche, but if Daniel Jeremiah or Bucky Brooks sign off on him, I take their word more than I take a Mel Kiper or well, he's not there anymore. He's with the Raiders now. I can't think of who the GM is for the Raiders now. It slipped my mind.
Oh, Mike Mayock.
Mike Mayock. He's not doing that anymore. He's actually a GM now, which is kind of crazy because he's such a scout for so many years. But I take these guys' opinions very well. They break down so many players, and they break down so many positions, and they don't have a bias or a horse in the game, as some people would say. So that would be pretty cool. Every mock draft that I've seen about this guy, he's already gone by 18. I certainly hope the Vikings don't reach, contrary to popular belief. I don't want them to go for anyone just because of filling a need when you could get a better value at a different position at that pick. But he has 2 offensive linemen going in the first 2 rounds, which will please a lot of people. And it's coming up in my video now. Eric McCoy with 2nd round from Texas A&M. It says he's 6'4", 304 pounds, 3-year starter, 39 consecutive games. Yeah, that would please a lot of people. And it doesn't say anything other than O-line, so you can kind of plug him in wherever he fits best. I'm hoping that if we can cover one guard spot, maybe we can cover another. That'd be awesome. This is all saying if this draft goes according to plan. I don't think they're going to go back-to-back offensive line. What do you got?
Well, right now, Josh Klein should be written in at that right guard spot in ink. That should be settled with what they're paying him and what they're expecting from him. That opens up the spot at left guard and possibly left tackle, although who knows, maybe they'll be moving the right guard, O'Neal, over to the left, or the right tackle over to left tackle, and Brian O'Neal will take that over. Maybe they'll move Rafe inside, and then they'll be looking for a right tackle. Like I said, this kind of versatility opens things up and allows the Vikings to be a little more creative.
So just meandering off here a little bit to ask, because I'm ignorant to this stuff. I was never an offensive lineman. I was never a football player. I'm just merely a Vikings fan. You guys can annihilate me in the comments for that all you like. There's
nothing wrong with being a fan.
Just study it a lot and try to pick up what you can. But Adam, you played offensive line, correct? Is that what you
I did in high school, yeah, a little bit.
So if you could break it down for us that don't know, I'd love to talk about this more in depth, and I know this is your wheelhouse. Is it really just plug and play? Does it depend on body type of where I've seen the really massive guys be on the outside when I think of like Phil Lodeholt or whatever? You need the more athletic guys inside. Like, can other guys just be plugged around and moved and be like, well, you're no lineman, just pick one of the 5 spots? How does that work?
Basically, what you want is you want your quarterback's blind side to be protected. So if you have a right-handed quarterback, you want your best, most agile pass blocker as being your left tackle.
Okay.
Now, you also want your left guard to be solid in that way. So you want kind of a better pass blocker over there. And the right side, where the quarterback could be looking a little more often, that's where you can have your better run blockers. That's why you'd see guys like Phil Lodeholt over there just road grading pass. Well, Phil wasn't the best pass blocker in the world. He sure could open up a hole when asked to. So basically what it is based on your quarterbacks, whether he throws with his right or left hand, his ability to be comfortable in the pocket, the amount of trust he can build with his offensive line. It's all based on those body types. Now, on the interior, your center, of course, your center and your guard, you want kind of the same amount of ability, but it goes with the left side. You might want a little bit more pass blocking if your quarterback's right-handed. And on the right side, you're going to want a little better run blocking.
See, this is why we keep Adam around. Not only does he keep the ship afloat, he makes me learn something almost every time we're on here. The last guy that we'll talk about for round 3 is a guy named Kalen Saunders out of Western Illinois. He said his stock is rising out of the senior.
I'm not familiar with that name.
Yeah, Western Illinois says this is a guy's 300 pounds or more, and he was doing backflips at the Senior Bowl. So he's a very athletic guy. This would be a defensive tackle to fill the void of Sheldon Richardson leaving. Not saying he would start, but had some good depth. That's an athletic dude. If he's 300 pounds throwing that much fun around in the air like that. But, yeah, Western Illinois said his stock is rising after the Senior Bowl game. He really showed up and impressed some people. And that's definitely some Daniel Jeremiah talk, because I would never have looked into Western Illinois to be looking for D-line help. But that's pretty cool, and I might look him up. Sean
Reynolds says that Kubiak's zone run and blocking scheme demands athleticism from offensive linemen, and it does. And I think that's why you're going to see a little bit more emphasis put into footwork. And another reason why a player like Brian O'Neill is on the right side of the offensive line instead of the left is because he's got that little extra bit of footwork, but he still lacked that mean run blocking. And I'm really kind of excited to see where he takes that next step, because he's basically a left tackle playing right tackle right now, and they still want him to bulk up and be that right tackle. But I'm waiting to see if that is what actually happened this offseason. That's something to watch for in like OTAs and practices. Meanwhile, while we're talking about mock drafts, there was a really interesting one that went on over at The Ringer. I don't know if you're familiar with their work over there, but they recently put up their most recent 2019 NFL mock, and they have the Vikings taking Byron Murphy from Washington, a cornerback.
I saw this on the Viking Age. That was the first thing that popped up when I opened before we started the show. Man, that's going to piss off a lot of fans if we take a corner in the first round. I don't care. I'm one of those guys that defaults, even though every year I learn more and more about the game and specific little details. I'm not a GM. I will never be a GM. It's stressful as hell. And Rick Spielman's been doing it for, 10 years for the Vikings almost? So he has a lot of experience, and I trust wherever he goes. I just know all the keyboard warriors are going to come out in full force and be pissed on day one. And, yeah, I don't know. Any cornerback depth with our coach, I'm totally okay with it. Because pretty much everybody that we've seen that he's drafted has shown some flashes of knowing what the hell they're doing. You know what I mean?
The year the Vikings shocked people by taking Mike Hughes in the first round, that didn't shock me at all. I was calling for that the whole time.
Yep.
Now, this year, it would shock me, because I think it's going to be an offensive lineman, and I want to punch myself in the face for saying this, I feel like they might go tight end.
I hope not. That's certainly heating up on web pages and comments everywhere.
The Vikings are meeting with Jay Sternberger.
Yep.
Another tight end prospect. And I still don't see the need. I think it's something that they could put on the back burner, since they've got 3 pretty decent tight ends for this year. Rudolph has coming off one of his better years as a receiver. David Morgan is working his way into a spot where the Vikings won't be able to keep him as a blocker if the salary cap stays the way it is. It's just right now it seems to me like a little bit more of a luxury pick, but we'll have to wait and see. But I would be surprised to see them pick someone who isn't an offensive lineman, a tight end, or a defensive tackle, considering just how great some of the defensive tackles in this draft are.
Yeah, I certainly hope that we go on either side of the line. It doesn't matter. You can flip it for either round. I think that would be the only case scenario where I'd be a little upset, and it's for the reasons that you picked. Rudy's not completely washed. He's still got some good tread on the tires left. They've made tight end picks within the last couple of years, and I think they're very, very good tight ends. They're versatile. Most of them are durable. I don't see the need for it, man. I really don't. There are other glaring needs on the team, and like you, I think that was very well said. A luxury pick, unless this guy is just like should have been drafted in the top 10 and he falls all the way to 18. I don't see a tight end being an overall top 10 pick, an overall top 10 grade for this draft. Do you?
I don't know. I've been arguing with people on Twitter about this for weeks now, that I don't really see it as a need. And I think it's something they should look into next year. But there are people on social media, Vikings fans, are telling me that there is generational talent at tight end in this draft, and they would be making a big mistake if they passed on a couple of guys. So I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, but because I haven't really evaluated tight ends. But right now, I think that there are bigger needs when it comes to offensive line depth, defensive tackle depth, bringing a couple new bodies at linebacker, getting a safety to join in. I mean, I would love for Kirk Cousins to get another great target. That'd be awesome for him. But I think that Kyle Rudolph is good. I think he could go to David Morgan a little bit more. I think the focus is still going to be mostly on Thielen and Diggs.
Yeah, I think it should be on those guys. And I'll just give a very generic answer and say, another target for Kirk Cousins sounds great, but he also has to have time to throw it to him. You know what I mean? Like, it comes down to that. And I know that's a stupid generic answer. It's been recycled a bunch, but man, like, unless you're looking at a Gronk or a Travis Kelce or a Tony Gonzalez or Antonio Gates, I don't understand the need for it.
I agree with you what you're saying. I think what you're saying is if you're drafting a tight end to be a receiver, like a wide receiver 3, that's the only way this would really make sense, because you wouldn't even really think of this player as being a tight end. Yeah. Like Jimmy Graham, great receiver, not the kind of guy you want as a tight end on any kind of running play or blocking.
No, and that's the other point of this, man. The Vikings are going to run the ball. Like, we fired an offensive coordinator 3/4 of the way into the season because we weren't running the ball enough. We need somebody who's going to block, and I'll tell you who can block. All the tight ends on the Vikings team right now, every one of them. I don't see the need for it, man. I really, really, truthfully don't. Unless, teams somehow figure out a way to cover Thielen and Diggs so well that the only person that they can throw to is Rudy or the wide receiver number 3, whoever that is. That's still up in the air. I just don't see it. I think we have everything that we need there for now. So,
True. Vikings announced their off-season workout dates. The first time that players are going to be able to come in and work out for the Vikings, April 15th, which is a really good day. I highly suggest everyone enjoy their April 15th. And then OTAs will kick off with 3 different sessions running from May 21st to June 6th. And then mandatory minicamp is set for June 11 through 13. And this is when the veteran players will join the new players and everything and get things rolling. So the steps are being taken to get into NFL football on the field. I know we're all still looking forward to the draft, but it's good to hear that the stuff behind the scenes is moving forward as well.
I feel like time has really flown by, too, in this offseason because it's already the month of the draft. And it feels like ancient history when the Patriots and the Rams played in the Super Bowl. And that was this year. It was very, very recently, if we're looking at the calendar, but it feels like it was a long time ago.
Ollie Adkins has a player in his mock right here that he just put down for us that I really like after looking at. And he is going to slip, and I don't think he's going to slip as far as Aline has him. But I would be more than happy with taking Terrell Hanks in the 3rd round. The Vikings need some linebacker depth, and he has shown a lot of athleticism and a lot of ability, and I would love to see him in the Minnesota Vikings uniform.
Wouldn't be mad. That's one of the if you go to any of the websites for all these experts, that's where I go. I like to see what other people are saying to gather my Viking news, and I'll see it on Facebook. I'll click an ad, whatever. I'll just scroll around and Google search. You always see O-line, D-line, and that last little interchangeable position is either corner, wide receiver, or linebacker. It's one of the 3. Those are the only ones that I've seen. So
now, Skull Productions brought something up that I was not really going to mention, but I think we probably should.
Let's hear it.
So Kyle Sloter said he's ready to be quarterback 2 for the Vikings, and I absolutely hate the way he came out saying it.
Oh, yeah.
I believe he has enough talent. I believe he should have been the quarterback 2 last year. But the way he said the team has kind of been ignoring him, I don't remember the exact words. I don't have it in front of me. But that, whenever his chance will come, the way he worded it all, I didn't care for it. But I know that it's just him being hungry and him wanting his opportunity and him thinking that he's working so hard for it. But the way it came out so passive-aggressive.
I'm going to look through our chat and find this because I want to read the exact. I'm going to read the exacts on this. Oh, man, did you give me a post from Chris Thomason on here that I have to read? Yep. So this is from Chris Thomason on March 20th. Kyle Sloter, on being the Vikings backup, says, quote, as far as the backup job, I'm more than ready to do it. I've been ready, I feel like, for a while. For one reason or another, they have kept me in the role that I've been in, and that's their decision. No, that wasn't a good look, especially for a guy that's like, it's kind of like you go into work and asking for a promotion. You kind of just get it when you earn it. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't be considered for that job. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that he's earned it, but I'm not saying that he hasn't earned it. But don't walk into your boss's office demanding a promotion or a raise. It usually doesn't go well. And that's what I read from that. Not sure what you guys in the chat think about it, but I'm with Adam. That came off like kind of douchey. I didn't like that as much.
Yeah, I like the guy. I like what he's showing in preseason. He's shown he's got a good arm. He's a pretty smart kid. I think that he should be definitely in the conversation. And I just feel like I don't know that statement. And then to top that all off, I believe it was yesterday, the Vikings met with former Rams quarterback Sean Mannion. And the idea was maybe they're signing him to be the backup. When, honestly, I'm not sure he's done anything more than Kyle Sloter has to earn the job. So I'm kind of back and forth on all this backup quarterback situation, and I have no clue what to think going forward. I'm sure Kirk Cousins hasn't missed a game in, 4 or 5 years, something like that.
Knock on wood.
But you want to have a capable backup behind him, and I don't know if Sean Mannion or Kyle Sloter is that guy.
Yeah, I think they're going to roll with Kyle Sloter. I think they're going to draft a quarterback in the later rounds, and just purely because we don't have the money to go find a decent backup quarterback. That's just me. Even if you go get a backup quarterback, they're going to cost more because it's the most valuable position. We just don't have that. Especially
if it's a veteran. If it's a guy on their rookie contract, you might be able to trade for him or something like that. But
yeah,
otherwise, you're going to get what you pay for, and if what you're paying for ain't much, you're going to get a Sean Mannion.
I just got a crazy scenario in my head, and I wonder if Vikings fans would absolutely murder me for this. But hear me out. I want to give you a crazy trade scenario. What if, and I don't think this will work because they were around the same pick, but I don't know if the value is there. I don't know. With the way one has played and one has not, we can bring it out. But what would you feel if we traded like just straight up for Josh Rosen and gave up Trey Waynes because he was on the trading block? Maybe that's
been something that's been tossed around on social media. Not only would it save the Vikings a lot of salary cap, but it would give the Vikings a really high potential backup quarterback and someone who might be able to be a successor to Kirk Cousins after his contract's over.
I haven't read any of that, and it just came to mind because I was thinking about the Giants from all the podcasts I listen to. And it's all ESPN stuff. It's all I listen to all week. You guys know that if you've listened to the show before, but is
Katie Nolan still ESPN?
Oh God, Katie Nolan. Yes, I love her so much. She was actually like serving beer over in Europe somewhere for a soccer game recently. Those lucky bastards. But yeah, like you're thinking about, and the only reason I can tie this back to the Viking talk is Pat Shurmur. Poor Pat Shurmur. That fucking GM over there in New York dealt their best player, and then he gets stuck with Eli Manning for another year. And you're just like, what in the shit are you guys doing over there? Now, I think the Giants are going to take a quarterback in the first round. They kind of have to now that they've got 2 first-round picks after getting rid of Odell Beckham Jr.
I'll also argue that Saquon's their best player.
Well, yeah, you could say that. I think now he is. I think he was set.
Before it was arguable.
Think so?
I think so. I think if I were putting a team together, I'd want Saquon over Odell.
Now, see, that's a different story. It's similar, but I would do the same thing. I would take into account other factors. I think Odell's just on a record-setting pace for when he actually is on the field. He's just stupid numbers that he's put up in his short time in the NFL. But anyway, I was thinking about that because Pat Shurmur, I thought, oh, shit, man, I forgot Pat Shurmur was the head coach of the Giants. That poor bastard, they're just not doing him any justice over there, and I'm sure he has a say, but thought about, man, why didn't they go after Rosen or somebody? That to me means they're going to get a quarterback in the draft. So technically,
they should have got a quarterback in the draft 2 years ago.
Honestly, probably sooner than that. They've missed the playoffs. I think 9 out of the last 10 seasons. They're terrible, but
I think they've gotten what they're gonna out of Eli, and yeah, I think they missed their opportunity on dishing him off on someone else.
There ain't no miracle Eli Manning run left in the tank, man. I'm sorry.
I feel even worse for Denver because I don't think Flacco's getting them anywhere.
Yeah, John Elway minus the Peyton Manning stuff, which you can't say anything because he went 2 Super Bowls and won one. But Jesus Christ, man, what has this guy done? He's with so many bad quarterback decisions. But
the Vikings have seen some bad quarterbacks. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah, we didn't draft Trevor Siemian initially to start him. At least we could say that, or Blake Bortles.
Oof.
Yeah, oof is right.
And Bortles, he got picked up, right?
God, where did he go?
Did he end up going to Oakland? Or where did he end up going? Because I think someone did pick him up.
He went to the Rams. He's going to be the backup over there.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Man, that's a killer move for him.
Yeah, he will have no shot to start there. But to be honest, I don't think he really gets that opportunity again. You might have to re-earn that one. Skull Production wants to know about Will Grier. And yeah, the Vikings have shown interest in Will Grier. I'd be all for a young quarterback coming in, competing. Watching him and Kyle Sloter compete would be fun. But I think that if they end up signing Sean Mannion, that we might not even see the Vikings going after a quarterback until mid to late rounds. And by then, Will Grier should be gone.
Yeah. I forget, man. We looked him up not too long ago on the show while we were talking about him, but I'll have to dig back through the episodes. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't like listening to us after we've already recorded. I kind of just like let it have its place in history and never watch it again.
Oh, I never like hearing my own voice.
I hate it. I'll have to do more research on Will Grier, but that's been a name that's been tossed around quite a few times. West Virginia, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. At least get the school right on there. Once we start getting into the later rounds and past like the super huge names, like it's just like picking something on a board when I'm blindfolded. I'm like, yeah, let's go with that.
Last year we saw NFL Media's Gil Brandt put together a ton of lists ranking all-time players, duos, trios, all whatever. And this year he's already gotten started. He's put together a list of the top receiving duos. And guess what? Thielen and Diggs ain't first.
Yeah, the aforementioned Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry, they're number one, aren't they?
They are.
Yep. I see the justification in this. I don't agree with it, but I see why someone would pick this duo.
I'm not mad at it.
I'm not either. I won't keep mentioning. I always give them a free plug on the show, but my favorite ESPN podcast, I'm not going to name it. You guys can figure it out. Listen to them all the time. One of their guys, the producer, is a huge Cleveland Browns homer. And they were talking about, like I mentioned with Odell, that's how I knew that stuff off the top of my head recently about Odell, when we were mentioning it a couple minutes ago. We're talking about Jarvis Landry. I think since whenever he came in the league, he's caught the ball more than anybody. Now, granted, he catches a lot of like 2 and 3 yard slants, but the job of the receiver is to catch the ball. He's pretty much the opposite of Laquan Treadwell, if you ask me. That was definitely a shot there. Yeah, you got some pretty sure-handed pass-catching hands in their wide receiver too, and Landry, and then you got just a freak athlete and freak wide receiver and Odell. And I honestly, I wouldn't expect a super major season from Odell Beckham this year. I think if anything, he'll get a lot of double teams, and then Landry will get open a lot more. But I'm not mad at that list. I think if Thielen and Diggs were any lower than 2, I'd be a little upset about it. But I can see the hype behind, Cleveland having the best wide receiver duo.
Skull Production in the chat says that's dumb, and I think he's right. That's kind of dumb because these 2 players haven't even been on a football field together in a game before. So it's hard to know what kind of dynamic they're going to have, how they're going to fit in Cleveland's system and everything. And, yeah, that's all tough. This is all based on projections, speculation, and everything like that. But, yeah, on talent alone, it's hard to kind of debate that those 2 deserve to be at or near the top.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I agree with you 100%. I don't really necessarily like it when they project lists of people who haven't played together. But this is much like last year when the Rams picked up Sue, and then you had Sue and Donald in there. You're like, fuck, man, it's gonna be good, and it's gonna be good on a high level. We just don't know what level it's gonna go to. As barring some major snafu or an injury, they're gonna be good. And I can tell you right now, adding Odell Beckham to your wide receiver core, it's gonna make you better. I get it. I didn't think it was gonna be Cleveland though. I don't think any of it was Cleveland.
But still need to see the Vikings getting some love at number 2 with Thielen and Diggs.
Yeah. Now, here's the debate I'd like to have, because I didn't get into an argument per se, because I killed that argument side of it pretty quick the other day. But who's the best receiver on our team? Is it Adam Thielen or is it Stephon Diggs?
See, I'd probably lean towards Thielen.
I did too, and I got chastised by an anonymous person on Instagram, which we later, talked about it instead of just being passive aggressive, because that's what the internet is now. But it's like, I think it was a post about Thielen and how much of a great year he had. It's NFL Top 10. I'll give them a shout out because I like that page and they do a lot of lists. And Thielen was mentioned at like number 9 or 8 on the year last year, and I was like, all right, that's respectable. He is a top 10 receiver. And this guy said Thielen's not even the best receiver on his team. I was like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, Diggs is covered by the best corner. And my defense with that is Thielen doesn't choose who covers him. He just gets open and catches the ball. Like, I don't really – and the other part of that too was he's like, well, he's only open because the number 1 corners are covering Diggs. I'm like, all right, let's go by the stats. Wouldn't the number 1 and best receiver on the team have better production? And I'm not taking a shot at Diggs at all. I absolutely love that we locked Diggs in for a while. I think he's a pivotal part of the passing game, but I think Adam Thielen's a better receiver than he is.
Ollie Adkins in the chat agrees with you with a slight edge to Adam Thielen.
Thank you.
Devin Gonzalez wants to know, do you think we'll take a kicker in the draft this year? And my answer is no.
No, and if you miss it, we're not going to poke fun of anybody in the chat. I don't know if you heard, but we kept Dan Bailey for another year, and it was a cheap deal, so I'm happy with it.
Now, this ties into something that I want to talk a little bit about, too, because Pro Football Focus named the best offseason moves so far from each NFL team, and they picked the Vikings re-signing Anthony Barr. I'd have picked that contract that they gave Dan Bailey to come back because that was amazing. I never – it was like a third to a quarter of what I expected them to have to pay to bring him back.
You know what that was, Adam? That was just like the Pro Bowl. It was all in name recognition. Nobody dove deep into us keeping Dan Bailey. They just like, oh, they kept Anthony Barr? Well, that was a big topic. We'll write that
now, I do like Anthony Barr's contract. I think it's easy for the Vikings to get out of. I think it gave Barr a lot of money up front, guaranteed, which is nice.
Isn't it basically a 1-year prove it? Isn't that what we said?
No, I think of the 5 years, I think they can cut him after 3 with a minimal loss.
Okay. Yeah, there was mutual interest for both sides, for us monetarily, but for him, I mean, he gets the money up front and gets taken care of, which is what all the players are eventually going to go to this. Like, every one of them are eventually going to go to guaranteed money, and I don't blame them, and I hope they get it. But he wanted the guaranteed money. I think it's just nuts, man. I think it's really nuts that he didn't want to go to New York where he was going to get a shitload of money. But I mean, I think that speaks to and we mentioned this on the show when we talked about it, I think he knows he's going to win more games in Minnesota versus with the New York Jets. So,
I do believe what he said when he said that it felt wrong for him to leave Minnesota. I really do believe that he feels a part of the Zimmer defense, that Zimmer went out and got him right away to build their defense around.
That was Mike Zimmer's first draft pick, if you guys didn't remember how far back that was. So it's crazy, man. Zim's been here. This will be his 6th season. So,
and he's got his buddy Eric Kendricks with him. He's got the locker room full of guys he's gotten to know. I completely understand why Barr felt that way. And on the Pro Football Focus site, they said something really interesting, that 2 years ago, Barr was the Vikings' lowest graded player, and 2 years later, he's their top graded off-ball linebacker and a key cog in the defense, which I think is really interesting to hear, because a lot of people really thought that there was some times when Barr was really struggling. And there were seasons where I thought Barr didn't quite meet up to standards, then go to Pro Football Focus and see that they completely disagreed with me. And so sometimes I think Pro Football Focus and the eye test are a little different, but it's hard to debate production.
As long as Anthony Barr is not covering speedy wide receivers anymore like that Rams game, I'm okay with it. If he's rushing the passer, he's floating around a little bit, I'm cool with it. I'm sure they're going to look at that and fix it from last year. So.
I'm fine with him grabbing players near the line of scrimmage and covering those guys. When you got a wide receiver that's running deep, no, keep him off the slot, guys.
Yeah, none of that, please.
Because that was absolutely rough. But yeah, expect Dan Bailey to be the kicker this year. I don't think the Vikings will use a pick, because I think they'd rather cast that net to try to catch another really good safety or linebacker in the mid to late rounds. Try to catch another Anthony Harris or something like that, which would be awesome.
Speaking of safeties, and I had the Eagles on the show, but did we mention from the last time we did a podcast that Andrew Sendejo is now a part of the Eagles?
We did.
Okay, cool.
Yep, we did that last week, which I was a little saddened by, but what can you do?
The Eagles are making moves too, guys. Be on the lookout. They got Jordan Howard from the Bears for a 6th-round pick for pretty much a steal. So they're going to be right back in the playoff mix again this year, no doubt about it.
Yeah, speaking of the playoff mix, I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of reports of the Vikings being right outside or on the bubble of the playoffs from a lot of expert picks. And I can get that considering the way they ended the season. But still, considering the Vikings were 8-7-1 on the year, there's a little bit of room for improvement. And considering Minnesota knows their weaknesses and can kind of build off those and try to fix and repair and build, I think the Vikings should be a little bit more of an advantage. But yeah, the Bears are still the favorite to win the NFC North, which I get that totally. They looked quite good last year. The Packers should be back a little bit stronger this year. And I don't know. The Lions are always unpredictable. I never know what to think of them.
I don't. I predicted the Lions are going to suck. I could be wrong. I forget who it was that I saw the other day. They're picking win totals for the year. They picked the Vikings at 9 for next year. And it said they tied with the Packers. And I was like, well, if we win 9 games and then the Packers win 9 games, that means they think the Bears are going to win the North again. I don't see the Bears winning the NFC North again. I do think they are vastly improved. And I think all those small little acquisitions they've made over the last 2 to 3 years are starting to add up and pay off. But I hate saying this, and it's going to kill me in my core to say it, but I don't think we've seen the last of Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's completely on the downhill. I think it was a down year. I think he's going to be another force to be reckoned with yet again, which I don't want. And I think the Bears come back down to reality a little bit. That's just my pick, just forecasting a little bit.
This could be another year where we see 3 NFC North teams in the playoffs. So
I mean,
you never know.
It absolutely could be.
But yeah, there are a lot of tough teams in the NFC, so it's going to be a fight to even sniff the playoffs this year. It's going to be a little bit of a brawl. Now, I guess we're kind of saving one of the bigger things for the end here, because the Vikings did add another year to the contract of general manager Rick Spielman. That means he will be around through 2020, just like Mike Zimmer is, tying the two together. And I know that the Vikings fans around the world are a little split on this. Spielman's had some draft misses. He's had some free agent misses. But overall, I think he's done a good job of bringing in a lot of talent to the roster, putting the team in a position where they might be able to succeed. And I'm excited to see him back for another year.
Yeah, I am too. I hate saying it this way, but I really truthfully believe it's a little bit of a scale. And it's, have you done more good than you've done bad? And that could be at 51 and 49, as long as it starts there and keeps going in the direction of good. And I think we can all agree that overall, I would say it's probably a 2/3 ratio of, yeah, he's done pretty good. Sure, you can easily go out and point out, the Cordero Pattersons of the world, or the kicker Daniel Carlson last year, but you can also argue in a lot of those other picks that we've gotten out there, because he's built. Anybody that I've seen on NFL Network or Good Morning Football or there, they always talk about how stacked the roster is. Man, this roster is stacked. Colin Cowherd's one of the national guys, so I think they have one of the best rosters in the NFL. You don't get that because you just wish it to happen. The GM makes that happen. So, and
a vast majority of those guys on the Vikings roster are draft picks, homegrown, home picked, just re-signed and worked out. I mean, there are very few actual stars on the Vikings roster that were picked up as free agents. So you kind of got to give Rick Spielman some credit in that department.
Yeah, I'm glad old Slick Rick's back, and I think it's fair. I think adding one more year, I don't think that he's done anything super amazing to give him a 5-year extension, but it comes back to that thing I've said on the show many, many times. If you get rid of him, you have to upgrade. Who out there is an up-and-coming or an established GM that's better than him? I think they made the right move by giving him another shot.
Oh, absolutely. All right, so let's see what we've got going on in the chat. We've got Ollie Atkins saying he likes Marvell Tell the third for a late-round pick at safety. And, yeah, that could be a very interesting selection. I love watching these players that are drafted late fight for roster spots, fight for a spot on the practice squad, and watch them ascend. Those are some of the best stories in the NFL. And I think that fans who miss out on the preseason and watch the ascension of these players, I think they're really missing out.
Yeah, I should probably look into that. Guilty.
Let's see. Skull Productions says that we should be looking out for the Saints. And, yeah, we should always be looking out for the Saints.
Yeah.
They are one heck of a good team.
It'll be interesting to see how Drew Brees goes about his career. Honestly, if you were asking me last year, and I don't like saying it because the Vikings weren't in the playoffs, but I was kind of hoping to see Drew Brees win a Super Bowl and retire. And then it came down to that weird
Let's take a minute, though, to talk about contracts, because that Drew Brees contract is crazy. The way the Saints have been extending him and putting their guaranteed money in the next year's contract so that they take a low cap hit and they just let it snowball and snowball is crazy. Yeah, have you taken a peek at the contract of Drew Brees over the years?
I haven't.
The way they have been doing things is so cheap and horrible, and it is going to just hurt their franchise.
I thought you were going to
go
bad on that. I thought you were going to say it's so cheap and amazing. You said it's.
Oh, at the time, it's great. For the year that he's playing, it's so good. Like this year, his salary cap hit is $22.7, which really ain't much of anything bad. Now, if he were to retire this year, after this season, the Saints would be on the hook still for $41.3 million in guaranteed money, because they just keep pushing it later and later towards the end of his contract.
And you got to think he's not one of those guys that's going to be like, no, it's okay, guys, keep that money. No. He's going to take that money at the end, run with it at the end. That's insane. And you know what that means to me? To me, that means they believe in him for not only this season, but maybe the season after, because they could always try to figure out a way to push that in and make it come alive this year or whatever. They could always do that.
And it makes me feel a little bit better about what the Vikings were able to do for Kirk Cousins, because they're not jeopardizing their future by putting that money in years that Cousins might not even be here.
Correct.
I mean, sure, it's putting down a lot of money in the years he is, but it's not hurting anything past that. And I get what they're doing. They want to have the best salary cap to open up their window and everything, but wow, they are. I don't know. I've never seen contracts really of a player of his stature be pushed like that.
You know,
I've seen smaller players take pay cuts with guaranteed money into the next year, and they end up cutting them. They get to keep that money. I've seen that, but I've never seen it with a player of the stature of Drew Brees ever.
To me, makes me feel better, like you were mentioning about Kirk Cousins. And think of it this way: if he's only here for 3 years, he was an expensive luxury item that gives you everything you want. He's not a car that you're going to fall in love with, but he has all the bells and whistles that you want, right? And
nobody wants to pay payments on a car that doesn't run.
Correct. And Kirk runs fine. He runs very well, actually. The other part of that is, too, if you end up keeping him, you've already put down, and I'm doing this as like a house payment or a car payment or something, but you've already put down a chunk of change, and you've got this established security in there, and you already know, all right, cool, man. So whenever I get ready to get done and get this thing paid off, I've already put a good portion to it, especially for his side, because that's what he wanted. He wanted to feel like, all right, cool. Do I feel the love in my bank account? I do. Do I feel the love of, hey, these people want me here, and they want me here for a while? The more you bring out stuff like that with the Drew Brees contract, the more I love this deal that Kirk Cousins got.
I still don't like fully guaranteed contracts, but I guess it kind of is what it is at that point. It's going to be something that's just going to be that way.
After seeing it and what he did, he has no idea what he was doing at the time, but Kirk Cousins is setting the standard for all the quarterbacks going forward. They're all going to ask for guaranteed money because all they have to do is point to their agent and say, Kirk Cousins did it. And then especially those guys, those 10 to 11 guys that are better than him or in front of him statistically, they'll be like, he did it, and I'm better than he is.
Yeah, it's changing the market for the way quarterbacks are going to get paid.
Yep.
It absolutely is going to. Let's finish up by talking about ESPN's power rankings, which they're already released. The free agency status report is what they're calling it. And this year they have the Minnesota Vikings. Have you seen this, Mr. Smith?
18th.
They've got them at 15th in this one.
It's better than I thought.
Now, if you remember last year, I believe a lot of experts had the Vikings first or second, right? At this point during the season?
Yeah. Coming off the year we had, they needed to shore up the quarterback position. Most everyone agreed that we upgraded with Kirk Cousins, and it was Super Bowl or bust for us last year. So last year was definitely a bust.
Yeah, so I'm glad to see the Vikings not among the favorites. But that to me, that doesn't mean that they lack any more talent or anything like that. It's just they're not getting the media attention for the transactions because they're not throwing that massive wad of cash down on a high-profile quarterback. And I think that you're absolutely right. I think it's all about name recognition and the big moves and everything like that. Because, yeah, the Saints are number one. They're a good team. They made some good moves, and you got to appreciate that. Then at 2 and 3, you got the 2 Super Bowl teams, and you got the Kansas City Chiefs at 4, who, if the Chiefs can get a defense, they're going to be almost unstoppable.
They lost so many players. The only reason they're doing that is because they have Travis Kelce and freaking Patrick Mahomes. That's it.
That offense is amazing.
They've lost so many people, and they're 4th. I'm not saying they won't be right in the mix. I certainly think they'll win that division and go to the playoffs again. But you gotta recover when you lose so much personnel. I don't understand that. But I said it when you started, man. I think this is dumb because you haven't even done the draft yet. And then even after the draft, they're going to come out with another list of power rankings. And it's like someone on almost every team is going to get injured every time.
Yeah.
You have to wait until – I mean, honestly, man, I think power rankings need to stay for the regular season and call it a day.
I won't say that because I make some good money off power rankings.
You know what? Everything I said was a sham, guys, and go to the Viking age and tell Adam.
My power rankings are okay, though, right?
That's where I was going with it.
That's the difference right there. That's the difference. I don't know. You said you had a social media question up this week, right?
Oh, let me look. I don't think so.
Come on, man. Come on. Dorian does a great job with his throwback stuff, and then we let you on the question of the week, and you blow it.
Oh, dude, I'm so bad about that.
Oh, we forgot to talk about one other important thing.
Let's talk about that.
NFL Rules Committee changing the rule of pass interference is reviewable.
So speaking of Sean Payton earlier, I listened to him on Golick and Wingo this morning. Hilarious, because Mike Golick Jr. got cut by Sean Payton not once but twice. He was like, that conversation awkward for you? He's like, no, not really. He's like, should we have reminded him while you were on there that he cut you twice? It was like, no, not really. That's okay. But another good thing that they brought up too, minus the pass interference rule, oh man, it'll come back to me. It just escaped my brain. He brought up some other stuff, and it was a question that a lot of people had, but they wondered if they'd even considered it. But I'll let you go forward.
It's funny that Saints fans approached this as if it were their thing, like the Aaron Rodgers thing with Tom Brady tuck rule. Vikings fans are looking at this and thinking, hey, if this had been in place when Chad Greenway was in that NFC Championship game, maybe they'd have seen that wasn't pass interference, and guess what? Then maybe the Vikings would have came out and won that game despite all the turnovers. But yeah, this opens up the whole series of what ifs, and it'll add asterisks next to wins for a bunch of fans. And honestly, I don't know about the whole thing with all this rule changes, because let's be honest, when it comes down to the end of a game and you're at the 40-yard line, clock's running out, got to try a Hail Mary, there is going to be pass interference on a Hail Mary every time.
There's
every single time.
Every time there's a Hail Mary, there's going to be some PI of some sort. And they covered that. They said that'll always be a thing. So it's going to be up to the refs like it always has been. It's going to be
a judgment call.
Every time. This is what I forgot at the beginning of the segment, and then we started going now. So this is pass interference, right? They asked to see if they could change, but it's going to be in baby steps, one rule at a time. They said, okay, cool. The Saints-Rams NFC Championship game, this rule change right here stemmed from an obvious non-call, which, while we're talking about this side of it, this specifically, you can throw a flag on a call or a non-call. But the good thing is people were worried that this is going to slow the game down. Coaches only have 2 of these. You can't throw these out every single time, all right? There's only 2 of these, just like it was.
Well, you can throw them if you get them right.
Yeah, true. And you still get to keep I think it's the same number of flags. You get 2 right, you don't get them taken away, whatever. You don't lose any timeouts. Like same rules before. But the question was proposed, and Sean Payton said that it was brought up by a majority of the owners and the coaches. All right, so you're doing it for pass interference. What about roughing the passer? Remember the Kansas City and New England AFC Championship game where roughing the passer was called on Tom Brady, where it clearly wasn't.
Oh, don't get Green Bay Packers fans started on that Clay Matthews roughing the passer.
Hey, tit for tat, there was 2 in that game and 1 on each team. I'm going to hear that shit from anybody. That made me so angry.
I knew that would get you riled up a little bit.
But let's be real. That Clay Matthews flag was a freebie from the refs, so we'll take it all the time.
Yeah, we'll take that.
Yeah, this was a topic of conversation that was brought up by the coaches and owners. It was not enforced. Obviously, you would have heard about it by now, but they are looking into it, and it might be coming forth in the future. Because you can't turn this into the flag football league. You can't. As much as you want to make it, safe for players, we're modern day gladiators, just beating the shit out of each other.
Andrew Lela says that he anticipates so many inclusive pass interference calls, it becomes like challenging the spot. And yes, I agree. I think we're going to see refs not call pass interference more often, and then kind of want coaches to throw the challenge flags. They'd rather let the game play out and look like they're being those refs that are letting the game play rather than throwing flags, and then have the coaches kind of doing their job for them. And I don't like that.
Yep.
I don't like that one bit. Finally, and this is something I just kind of read today, is that the AAF is putting a halt to their stuff.
Yep. I was glad you were going to get to that. I was going to bring it up. The Alliance of American Football, which is a product of the NFL, has suspended all operations 7 games in to their season. And I think I don't know who we were talking about. I think it might have been in the chat or somebody said it today, but you got to think Vince McMahon's just sitting back there going, this is why I waited a year.
It is. It's absolutely why he waited a year. He wanted that extra planning. He's got the funding. He doesn't have to reach for outside sources. I've been reading that players are forced now to pay for their own tickets for the way home. And it's just been absolutely ridiculous. No, for the AAF.
Oh, God. Yeah, no. the AAF in itself was it's one of those like
they rushed into it. They rushed into it so bad.
Good idea. It was good on paper. It's one of those. This is sad. And you know who I thought of instantly when I heard about this? I thought of Charles Johnson. He's having a really good year, and you wonder if a team's going to take a look at him again because that's what they want. They want to get called up again. This is the minor leagues. A lot
of former Vikings are really shining in that league.
For sure.
Oh man, and I watched a couple of those games. I enjoyed them. I thought they were good. I didn't watch all of them. I didn't watch as many as I probably should have to support it. But in the end, I just don't think they had the support to go with it. Now, XFL, I feel that's going to be a little bit different because of the rules. They added the running clock, the shorter play clock, and everything. It's going to be fast-paced. Games are going to fly by. It should be really interesting, but I don't know. I want there to be football. I love football in so many forms. I'll watch Canadian football. I'll watch arena football. I'll put it on as I'm working or something just to check out what's going on every once in a while. And I don't know. To me, seeing this crumble so soon, not only does it kind of say a lot about how loyal fans of the NFL are, but it says a lot about trying to start any sort of competition. And we did see this in the past with XFL, which it did finish its season. It lost. I don't think it lost a ton of money, but I think it lost enough to where they didn't want to give it another try. But now I think that there's that plan in place, and I think it's going to have I think XFL is going to have a chance. I thought AAF would because of all the big power tied to it, because of the tie-ins with the NFL, and I ended up being wrong there. And I hope I'm not wrong about the XFL.
No, I'm with you. I think that it'll have its market. I don't think it's going to rival the NFL in any way, but I think it's going to challenge it, and I think it's going to have its place. And Vince is very, very smart for waiting a year and seeing what the atmosphere is like for all football fans, and then going from there because he owns this whole thing. He runs this whole operation, so he can make these adjustments on the fly to benefit him and this league, and he's going to.
I'll also say the AAF made a couple other big mistakes. They put all their teams in the southern United States.
Yep.
They didn't branch out to markets enough. Other markets would have done fantastic. They went right after the Super Bowl, 1 week after the Super Bowl. They got to give fans a little bit of time to miss football.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those were the two biggest mistakes that I saw happen with this league. And I hope that there is a spot for more football. I really do. Because I love the NFL. I love watching these hits. I love watching the great plays. But sadly, it seems like the AAF isn't going to be that anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately. I don't know when you would tie it in. I agree with you 100%. You got to give fans some breathing room and build up. If you waited for after the Super Bowl and let some build up go and the promotions get bigger and bigger, I don't know if that's the time. I don't know if you go right after March Madness is over, which is coming up this weekend. I don't know.
Because let's be honest, too, Pro Bowl. You'd be more interested in the Pro Bowl if it was 2 weeks after the Super Bowl.
Maybe.
I know I definitely would be because I'm so focused on that big game and the fallout that I don't give a care if there's all these players, that I like. I'd have a better chance of seeing them later on, spreading it out a bit.
I see your side of it now. I didn't like the Pro Bowl because of it not being played the way it should. I like the skills competition, but I see what you're saying for the timing of it, and yeah, I get it.
That's all I have for this week. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add before we sign off.
No.
I think we touched on pretty much everything important for the Vikings news.
Thanks for bearing with us, guys. We have a lot of scheduling that we have to get fixed. Just people starting new jobs and stuff coming up last minute, but we're still here. We're still really in love that you guys are interacting with us, and we appreciate you guys. If you guys want to hook us up, what I would suggest that we do, and I'm going to try to put a little promotional thing on Facebook, but we have it in our little Google document that we start every week, and we haven't tried this in a while, but I want to challenge each and every one of you that are listening right now to share our Facebook page onto your Facebook page, or if you have Facebook, because that's probably our biggest market on here, and you don't want to share our Facebook page, share our YouTube channel and build up our numbers. If just 5 of you do it now and you all get clicks from it, we get new people to come on. You can tell your Viking friends about it. Come in here and have a bigger discussion, which is what we want to do, and keep building up this page because we really enjoy it. Adam just told me before the show, and I totally agree with him, that this is kind of like a social hour for us to check in and talk about football and really get in and just have a good friend, hang out, get together, hang out because we're using Google Hangouts, and just a release. We get to talk about football and have a little bit of time to just get away from stuff in life. So I really enjoy hanging out with all you guys and talking in the chat. And if you could share our page and help us build it up, that'd be awesome, and we would greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Yeah. Even if you're on YouTube, a like, share, subscribe, whatever. I know it sounds corny, but we would appreciate it. And I think Vikings fans would love to just sit down and talk football with all of us. So please go ahead. I do want to add that Mark, our winner of the Survival League, received his package from me. I don't know if he's got another one coming from Mr. West or not, but I know I sent him over a real nice package with several things, and he wanted to let us know that he loved everything he got, and he's really looking forward to playing again next year. So we'll be posting up for the Survival League again next year. Join on in, have some fun, and it's our way of saying thank you and our way of giving back to our listeners who want to have a little bit of fun, compete a little bit, and I don't know. I just love it. I think it's great. Also,
same time. Go ahead.
I was going to sign off, so you better do your also first.
No, I'm just letting everybody know we're only 23 days away from the draft, so it's coming up soon, guys. We're going to keep you covered, up to date, and just get ready for the draft coming up. It's going to be a good one. Skull
Productions here has a rumor that the Vikings are wanting to trade for Duke Johnson, and I haven't heard that yet. So maybe, I don't know. I don't have to look into that.
The running back, correct?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad about that at all. We need help at running back. So if you could let us know, shoot us a message on the Facebook page or something. Where'd you hear that from? Because I would love for that to happen.
We had another amazing another amazing month over on the Viking Age. I personally hit my record best for page views. So I want to thank everyone who went over there and checked out my articles as well as those of who work on the site, because we put in a lot of work and a lot of it is just out of passion and because we want to interact with readers. And I do want to thank everyone who just visits the site, clicks on some articles, maybe shares one or two. It does a lot for me, and I really appreciate it. Meanwhile, over on Undead Walking, The Walking Dead Season 9 has come to a close, and that season finale didn't quite match up to the intensity of the episode before. It was still a great season, and we're going to be talking about it a lot over the next couple months until Fear the Walking Dead returns. So head on over there for all your zombie love and needs. I don't know if you got anything else you want to plug.
Nope, we're good for the week. I'm just glad that everybody showed up.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you to everyone who joined in the chat, interacted on social media. You guys are awesome, and we love that you come here to talk about football with us. So thanks again to everyone, and I really appreciate it. Stay classy, Minnesota.